I want to begin the lesson today, which is called Slowing Down and Reading the Signs, with the reading of an autobiography. It's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes me forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. You see, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. All that wisdom in 5 short chapters. And so what does that have to do with slowing down and reading the signs? Well, it has a lot to do with it. We hear the expression, the universe is conspiring in our favor. And when I thought about that, I was reminded of Einstein's quote, people really want to know one basic thing, and that is the universe a friendly place? His work through science determined that it is. And he's a fellow who went through a great deal. He fell into a lot of holes in his life, but he found himself walking down a different street at a point. In Romans 8:28, Paul speaks of this idea of slowing down and reading the signs when he says, in all things God works for good. And if you remember the rest of the scripture, I'm sure Linda does, there's a qualifier that says, in all things God works together for good for those who love him and seek to serve him. Now, does that mean that that law doesn't apply to all of us? Of course, it does apply to all of us, but when we are loving God, when we're loving God by loving each other and by seeking to know the truth for each other, remembering that light that burns in all of us, making that choice for heaven, then we are in alignment with that principle and it can work truly powerfully in our lives. God working together for good. The other piece that I used in the little article that was in our wonderful weekly newsletter, thank you, Mary Ann, is the universe is constantly working on our behalf. Jesus in Mark said, with God, all things are possible. But how do we really allow ourselves to take advantage of that truth if the universe is really supporting us in everything that we experience and through every person that we experience? How do we remember to tune in? Ernest Holmes, I've quoted from him several times lately, the founder of Science of Mind, wrote this: Jesus said that all space is filled with the divine presence, peopling itself with the many forms of its own creation. In unity we say there is no where God is not. He taught that all things and all people are rooted in this divine intelligence, the very thing that we were talking about when we talked about this divine light that we remind ourselves of each week, and that Myrtle reminded us of in that reading that Mary shared with us in the meditation. And she was, if you remember, her words were essentially in that writing, we can always choose to step into a greater experience of that presence. We can step into a larger room. Holmes goes on to say, he taught that all things and all people are rooted in this divine intelligence, which, because it is individualized in each, is personal to all. So our experience of God, that experience of receiving or believing and experiencing the support of the universe, is personal. It's unique to each of us. It's going to be experienced a little bit differently. But the universe, also known as the Holy Spirit, is always on purpose, always. And so whatever difficulties we find ourselves in, whatever challenges are there for us, whatever is ruffling our feathers at the moment, is really a gift, even though it doesn't feel like it, does it? Always. It usually feels like just bad, a ruffling of our feathers, not good. He goes on to say, coupled with this concept of the divine presence and our relationship to it, he taught a universal law of cause and effect, a law of mind in action operating creatively upon our thought. Now, when that individual in that autobiography who learned a lot in those 5 chapters, in that 5 experiences with the whole or the new street, was teaching us that when we're in that first mindset, that mindset of being a victim. If you remember, the words were essentially, I fell in, it wasn't my fault, it took me forever to get out. Who put this hole here anyway? If we're in that victim consciousness, it allows us to be subverted by it and to be at the mercy of it. But if we allow ourselves, as in the 2nd chapter, to begin to have a realization, we sense that there's this hole in the sidewalk, in Portia Nelson's language, and we fall in, but we're still in that place of feeling victimized. There's a little bit of light that's come in, but not the full light. In the 3rd chapter, if you remember, I saw the hole in the sidewalk, and I, out of habit, fell in. But I didn't stay there long because I didn't own it as a victim. I owned it as my own responsibility, something that I had created. Now, in the 4th chapter of Portia Nelson's wonderful treatise, that long, long autobiography that we just read in its entirety, she's walking down the street. There is the hole in the sidewalk. She sees it and she walks around it, indicating a growing awareness, a growing sensitivity to learning what Spirit is putting before us. And finally, in the 5th chapter, we would call that what? Transformation, salvation, could be another word that we would use for it, a new paradigm. I want to ask you to close your eyes for just a moment, and all of us, we know all of us are moving through things in our lives, individually, with physical challenges, with people in our lives, whatever the case may be, in the larger scope and scape of things, the national or international scene and the difficulties we're seeing around the world, whatever it might be. But I would ask you to identify one of those things and allow yourself to walk to the edge of it, meaning allow yourself to come to that particular challenge that is there for you on this given Sunday, or if you're listening to this at another time, and feel some of the challenge of that, some of the hurt that might be in that, some of the difficulty, some of the uneasiness, whatever it might be. And then remembering the words of Mary Bolen a while ago, let's breathe into that uneasiness. And realize that even though in our life before, and maybe in the day that follows, or the week, or the month, whatever it might be, we fall into that situation again, and we feel constrained by it and in fact victimized by it. We can actually allow ourselves to say, no, I'm coming out of this hole. I'm coming out of this old mindset. I'm stepping into this new room that Myrtle Fillmore reminded us of, and I am claiming my authentic power. I am claiming my authentic wisdom. That power and that wisdom taught to us by Jesus the Christ, taught to us by other great minds and masters through the ages. Rumi called it that place beyond wrongdoing and right doing, that field. And whatever we may know it by, allow yourself, if you will, to feel the strength of your spirit, standing strong in the truth that that hole is not you. That difficulty, that challenge, whatever it might be, is something, yes, that you're moving through, but it is not who you are. It is something to be seen and to be called out, an appearance. Jesus said to us, don't be fooled by appearances. They are only that. Allow yourself to extricate yourself from that old energy and idea and stand strongly in a new place. And just, if you will, using the power of your imagination, picture yourself walking down a different street. See yourself, feel yourself walking resolutely down a street of incredible light, incredible peace, and incredible love. Shoulders back, head held high, walking the street of heaven, the song reminds us of. Choosing that joy and choosing that love, choosing that peace. Jesus said we can't serve two masters. We can't be in that place of being a victim and at the same time be in the place of our true nature and empowerment. And so it's a choice, but seeing ourselves walking resolutely down this new street, we find ourselves in the company of angels, in the company of the masters, and all of those who would say, this way works. This is what you're here to live and to experience and to express, not the other. And so we give ourselves a moment to be in the energy of that feeling of empowerment from Spirit, of love from Spirit and of Spirit, and of light, the light that Jesus called us to shine into this world. For just a moment, be in that idea and feeling. When you're ready, just open your eyes. Holmes writes, "It is done unto you as you believe," not only implies something that responds, its response is actually limited to our belief. It not only responds to us, but it responds to us as we believe. And so if you and I are dwelling in the energy of that other street, that street of light and that street of authentic power and clarity and peace, then life becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that way, and we begin to see signs that support that idea. Now, we've all seen signs in our lives, literal signs, but other signs that have come to us in different ways. Amen? Had that experience? Mary and I were returning from a wonderful time away, and we are grateful for the support of our congregation in getting away and leaving you in the capable hands of M.K. Mueller and Reverend Jim Rosemergy and this beautiful congregation. But we were in a place on the road on I-65 moving from Mobile to Montgomery, which is a road that, if you've been there, seems to take forever. And we had this deep conversation, and we're trying to kind of get some guidance around some things. And all of a sudden, in the median appeared a beautiful, full-grown fox. And we hadn't seen a fox in a long, long time. We saw quite a few when we lived in Texas and Arizona, but hadn't seen one in Alabama or Georgia in a long, long time. And there it was in the middle of the median, running across, but it was a huge area, not something that was threatening. And there was forest nearby and so forth, even within the median. And so Mary dutifully got on her cell phone and looked up what does the fox totem represent, because we've had experiences, I mentioned a few weeks ago, about seeing a bear on the way here, and that was a wonderful gift to me. She didn't get to see it, but we saw the fox together. So she looked it up, and it, of course, talks about wisdom and strength and making good decisions. And there was that beautiful sign. Now, some people would dismiss it and say, well, it was just a fox that happened to be there when you happened to go by. But I don't believe in happenstance. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And so we enjoyed that. It was not something that we talked about the rest of the trip, but it was a beautiful gift. Sometimes those signs are obvious and exciting, and sometimes they're a little more subtle. Have you ever noticed that? A little more subtle. So I want to talk about another sign that we experienced just yesterday in a very holy place called Costco. Nervous laughter, but because some of us know what we're talking about. You know, when you walk through that line, if you've been in there very long, hold on to your wallet, because it's going to cost you, but it's a great, great place. We love shopping there. And so we were on our way in and just gotten inside, and if you hadn't noticed, Christmas is up already. And so there was a beautiful Christmas tree and a little boy who appeared to be all by himself. He was probably 3 years old, maybe, if that. And so here's this 3-year-old looking at this Christmas tree, and we didn't see anybody around. And so Mary did her motherly, grandmotherly thing and start looking for mother and dad, you know, or mother or dad or someone that knows this child. And they were not far away. They were behind us, but we didn't see them. And so the man noticed our concern, and we had moved away just a little ways once we knew he was safe. And the man said to me in a way that was very clear and very sincere, "Thank you." From the looks of the man, he was maybe Middle Eastern, I'm not sure. But there was this conveyance of gratitude that we allowed ourselves to really take in, because there was this child, and there were his parents, and there was this two strangers who were concerned for this child. Now, when I thought about that and the corollary that could represent, here's what came to me. Our Father is always nearby. Holmes reminds us that in order for us to really activate this experience of divine love, we've got to have that personal relationship with Spirit in whatever way is perfect for us. But our Father is always standing by. And whenever any of God's creations call that to our attention, there is gratitude from the Creator. Gratitude because someone has acted in behalf of love, on the part of love. So let me ask you to close your eyes for a minute and picture yourself. You're 3 years old, or 4 or 5, and you're in a place where you're feeling excitement about something that's going on. For this little boy, it was the Christmas tree in late September. But just allow yourself to revisit for a moment in your mind, as best you can, that younger version of you. Now, give yourself also permission to be in that setting where there wasn't a Christmas tree. There was something difficult that was taking place. And a stranger happens by in the form of a sister or brother, a mother or father, or just a stranger, and says, "Are you okay? I see you." And to this individual who has taken a moment to notice you and see you and feel compassion for you with whatever may be going on, or excitement for you with that, if that is the case. And there is our Creator expressing through this stranger love and support. And there is this energy of gratitude because you've been reminded, and I've been reminded in this moment, that there is never a place where we have ever been, are, or will ever be where God is not present as a divine love, as a love that sees us as we are created, and also as a love that can honor when our mind gets muddled or when things go astray. And yet that love is constant, it is complete, and it is sincere. And the response that we feel is gratitude. Gratitude for knowing that we are loved and supported always. And gratitude for knowing that not only do we feel and see and hear these words, but that the universe, when we complete this service today, when we walk out into our week, when we move into this new experience of fall and all that it holds, will give us signs. It may be an embrace, it may be the glance of another, it may be a phone call or an email or a text, whatever it might be, that reminds us that we are cherished and we are loved. And so we take a moment to smell that rose, to feel the fragrance of God's love enfolding and embracing us just as we are. Never leaving us if we're in the middle of the hole in the sidewalk, or walking down a different street. When you're ready, just open your eyes. Mary saw a sign just yesterday. We rode by a more traditional church, and the sign was, "Let Jesus love the devil out of you." Now, to give that a little bit of a new thought interpretation, I would say let the power of love move out whatever doesn't belong. Any grievance, any criticism, complaining, condemnation that might be there that represents that poison ivy when we're trying to smell the rose. Whatever it is, that power is always available to us. And so if we allow ourselves to remember that and to practice that, to look for that, then we will be blessed, and we will be that blessing. Thank you. God bless. So I'm going to ask our ushers to come forward, and as they do, as we